and Thomas was with them. Although the doors were shut, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and see my hands. Reach out your hand and put it in my side. Do not doubt, but believe." Thomas answered him, "My Lord and my God." Jesus said to him, "Have you believed because you've seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have come to believe." Now Jesus did many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book. But these are written so that you may come to believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that through believing you may have life in his name. This ends our gospel reading. Please join me in prayer. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be pleasing to you, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. For me, Easter begins almost as soon as we finish Christmas. Even though I know I won't be preaching on Easter Sunday, I begin thinking about the upcoming worship, the significance of that most holy holiday for Christians, what it means to me, how to be a pastor of a congregation and help all those people who I serve to experience Easter in a powerful way, how to reach out to all the faithful who come almost every Sunday without leaving behind the once or twice a year people. Because I begin reflecting on Easter in late December or early January, there are lots of mini Easter epiphanies along the way. I'd like to share a few today, and then also give you the opportunity to share your own Easter experiences. Let's start with Judas. Thank you, Karen, for adding too much heaven on their minds to our worship last weekend. I think that song helped us to see Judas as a more rounded person, someone who believed in the ministry of Jesus but thought it was taking the wrong direction, someone who was trying to redirect things by making his deal with the authorities, then was overwhelmed with guilt when he realized his actions sent things in a far different direction than he had ever anticipated. Judas gives us a peek into what it means to be loved unconditionally by God. Jesus knew his ministry was coming to an end. He knew he would be betrayed. He knew who would do it. But as they gathered in the upper room for that Last Supper, none of the other disciples had a clue who it was that would set that awful plan into motion. They were so completely unaware of Judas' scheme that they even questioned their own innocence. Each of them asked, "Is it me, Lord?" "Surely not me, Lord." This is how much Jesus loved Judas. He never gave him up to the others. He never tipped them, never gave a clue in the way he treated Judas. Not even that night. He treated Judas with just as much love and acceptance as he gave to the other 11. He loved Judas as he loved himself. And that is the love that he pours out on us, unconditionally, extravagantly, radically loving us, no matter who we are, where we are on our life's journey, or what we are doing. That is the love of Christ given as a gift to each of us. Another observation. The women were first at the empty tomb. Depending on which gospel account you read, either a group of them or Mary Magdalene alone. Either way, women were the first witnesses of the resurrection and the first to preach the good news of Easter. True to his earthly life, Jesus honored the least in society. This time he honored the women by allowing women to be the first to know and the first to proclaim his resurrection. The men showed us that we all have our own ways of knowing things, and most of us need to learn for ourselves. Like Peter and the other disciple who raced to the empty tomb to see for themselves, we need to see evidence too. The unnamed disciple peeked in, saw the discarded grave clothes, and then he knew. The disciples who were back in town, safely locked in a room together grieving, got their own first-hand experience when Jesus suddenly appeared to them. They had a face-to-face encounter with the risen Jesus. Along comes poor Thomas, a bit too late to join them in their miraculous experience, and he's forever dubbed the doubter. But in actuality, he's no different than the men who needed to see the empty tomb for themselves and who also had the experience of seeing risen Jesus. What we forget about Thomas is that he was also devoted. A few chapters earlier in John's Gospel, when we read the story of Jesus going to the home of Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, when Lazarus was ill, died, and then was raised back to life by Jesus, Thomas is the one of the 12 who was quoted as saying that if Jesus was going to go back to Jerusalem where his life had been in danger, then Thomas was going as well. John chapter 11, verse 16 says, Thomas, who was called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, "Let us also go, that we may die with him." That is some very serious loyalty. But we don't remember him for his loyalty, only for his questioning. Yet in that particular circumstance, doubting was an appropriate reaction. After all, it wasn't every day that someone came back to life after being crucified and lying in a tomb for 3 days. And he very quickly believed as soon as Jesus appeared to him. He didn't need DNA testing or a lie detector to prove it was really Jesus. He believed the moment he encountered the living Christ. We all learn in different ways. One disciple knew Jesus had been resurrected because he saw an empty tomb and discarded grave linens. Mary Magdalene knew when Jesus spoke her name. The others knew and believed when they saw Jesus for themselves. The God who loves us loves each of us enough to deliver messages in precisely the way we need them in order to be able to receive them. How is it that each of us knows Jesus lives? How have you encountered the living Christ? Most weeks, my personal worship experience happens in the preparation of the sermon and then here in our music or in our prayer time. Last week, I fully expected to experience worship as the musical unfolded. I had already been moved at rehearsal the previous Saturday and again at dress rehearsal on Friday evening. For me, Saturday and Sunday were bonus worship experiences. What I didn't expect was the very personal message the Holy Spirit gave me as Kelly sang Gethsemane on Easter morning. A few of the lyrics spoke directly to my heart and to a burden I've been carrying. In that song, Jesus is struggling with the knowledge that he'll soon be arrested and put to death. He turns to God in prayer and is honest with God, sharing his agony and asking his questions. The lyrics that struck me are, "You're far too keen on where and how, and not so hot on why." Then I was inspired. Now I'm sad and tired. After all, I've tried for 3 years. Seems like 90. Why then am I scared to finish what I started? What you started. I didn't start it. God, thy will is hard. You hold every card. As Kelly sang those words, I felt comforted in the weariness I've been experiencing over the process of ordination. I've been thinking, it's been 6 long years. Will I ever finish this process that I started, that God started? I didn't start it. I didn't even know I wanted it. I've been saying for most of my adult life that that God doesn't give me enough information, not too keen on why or how. And I do know that God holds every card. Suddenly the burden of my process of ordination was lifted. My Easter new life was knowing that I will make it through the time challenge